Let's get back to this one. I think this one more people have asked me about. This is the 435i. I'm going to use these T-handles to kind of show you why shift points are pretty important, I guess, if you have like a low-powered vehicle to try to maximize it. So being that the car only made 418, 411, 414, and 418, that's what it made. Of course, it made quite a bit of torque, I guess you can say that. But again, this is the 435i. So I know a lot of people kind of find it weird that I shift at 5800. But this is the reason I do it. I looked at a lot of custom tuned stock turbo cars, and they kind of mimic the same graph. Of course, we don't always make the exact same horsepower. Some of those custom tuned cars made a little bit more than me. Some of them made basically what I made, so just kind of hit or miss. But the graph in general is basically the same. It has the same shape. So let's say you shift at 6200, your RPMs more than likely on most gears are going to average out to be coming down to about, let's say 4800. So if you look at that, this line right here, it's kind of hard to see, but that's the 400 horsepower mark. It's already starting to dip down quite a bit. So when you shift at 6200 and it comes back down to about 4750, you're actually making more power. You're above that 400 horsepower line at 4750. So that's why it's very important. You've already well, at least on my tune, I'm already losing about, about 50 horsepower. And this one, there's other lines a little bit higher, but let's say that's about 20 horsepower right there, and that's about 50 horsepower. That's quite a bit. If I was to take this back and shift at 5800, I'm still right at 400 horsepower. And this is gonna, of course, this is gonna fall back too. So I'm trying to show you. That's gonna land about 4500 RPM. But if you look at that graph, at 4500 RPM, I'm right at 400 horsepower. And even at 5800, I'm still right at 400 horsepower. So the whole time the car is making over 400 horsepower versus if it making 350 or 370, whichever line you want to go by. But and if you look at it, it's a lot more consistent as well in this middle part. So it plays a big factor into, trying to maximize the performance. But like I said, basically what type of turbo you run, the octane, and how the tune is set up can change this. So it's not one all be all. There's not one best shift point for anything. So if you could put a bigger, like a full frame, man, you're going to be shifting around 6500 or maybe even a little bit higher. You'll see they'll peak around, closer to 6000. Being that there's a stock turbo, this thing is basically out of air, and it ain't going to make much up here in this area. So, this is the area you want to avoid. You could already see, it starts tailing down pretty fast. And if you were to go to the 93 tune or stage 2 BM3 E30 or MHD stage 2 plus E20 or E30, whatever you want to call it, essentially those tunes are very similar, man. They basically make about the same power. They'll make about 400. Or we'll make it maybe a little bit less, maybe like 390 or so. It's about average, So this one makes about 30 more horsepower, and it makes about 40 more foot-pounds of torque. I mean, your average E20, E32 on a stock fuel pump, high pressure fuel pump, it's gonna make about 390 and about 450. This map makes a little bit more because it's it is designed for the high pressure fuel pump, but they will not fall down or taper down as much, on this high end. They're going to be more linear because you're not stressing the turbo as much. They won't make this torque as early either. This will be a little bit lower. This will be a little bit lower, and basically the curve will look more like this, more like a normal curve. The reason it's like this is because this turbo is out of, it's being pushed hard. So like I said, this is normal for an N55, with the tune that's kind of pushing it. The car, I think at 5800, think I'm around 11 or 12 degrees. That was on the static E30, and it was pushing a little bit over at peak over here in the mid range. It was making about 21 pounds of boost, or 20.8 or something like that. That's what it's targeting. But of course, it tapers down a little bit as you get up higher. I think it tapered down to like 19, 19 and a half or somewhere around there. Now that I did put the bigger fuel pump, it definitely has picked up power. Boost is still the same, but it's picked up, I think, around throughout the pool, around 2 to 3 degrees of timing, and I can definitely feel it. And the 60 to 130 time, you know, is no lie. You know, you can't cheat time, you can't skew time. You know, it's showing to be quicker as well. So I think you can make around, like I had previously said, about 425, 430 on the OTS map. You know, but you would need the flex fuel sensor. I've run it a couple of times on the on E50 to E69. It's a one set increase. Does it? I don't know why BM3 does it that way. So anything between, let's say, E50 to E69, the timing is set to a certain parameter. I think it's a flex fuel something factor. I forgot what it's called. But once you get over E70, that's when it really starts to increase more. So I think around, when I've logged it at E50, E68, E62, E65, it's only increasing timing about maybe a degree, maybe a degree and a half in certain spots. But when I'm over E70, it's definitely increasing 2 to maybe 3, you know, throughout the pool. So I know it should make, you know, I would say it pick up at least 10 horsepower and 10 foot-pounds of torque, and that's probably being conservative. But you know, that's my guess on that. So let's go back